just relax. Good morning, those of you who are online. Welcome. We started a little bit before. And today my name's John Braucher, and, presenting Art and Science of Allowing. So, and I have some handouts available for those of you who are here. We're going to start with a guided meditation, a brief guided meditation. If you're comfortable, close your eyes or lower your gaze to the floor a few feet in front of you. Take a few deep, slow breaths in through your nose and exhale a soft sigh, letting the weight of your body drop into the surface beneath. Bring your attention to your physical body. Notice any areas where you are holding tension. Perhaps your jaw, forehead, shoulders, your tongue, or your belly. Without trying to force anything to change, simply acknowledge the tension. As you exhale, gently invite those areas to soften, allowing your muscles to relax into the pull of gravity. Allow your breath to return to its natural, unforced rhythm. You don't need to control your breath in any specific way. Now open your awareness to the thoughts, feelings, or emotions that are present right now. Whether a thought arises, whether it is a worry, a plan, or a memory, see if you can just observe it without engaging with the storyline. Imagine the thoughts as leaves floating down a gentle stream. Just allow them to do that. Allowing does not mean you like everything you are experiencing. It simply means acknowledging. This is what is happening right now. If you notice resistance, judgment, or frustration with your experience, gently allow resistance to be there. See if you can lean into a soft, spacious acceptance of whatever arises in the mind and the body. Continue to rest in this space of pure allowance. If your mind wanders, or you get caught up in a thought that is completely wrong, gently notice that you have drifted and softly return your focus to the natural rhythm of your breath and the sensation of your body sitting in stillness. Remind yourself that you do not need to do anything right now. You can simply be. As we end this meditation, begin to deepen your breath once again. Slowly bring small movements back into your body by wiggling your fingers and toes. Take a gentle stretch if your body needs it. And when you feel ready, slowly open your eyes, carrying the sense of allowing space and peace into the rest of your day. I wanted to start with that. That's something too that, of course, we can do anytime that we want, anytime we're noticing anxiety or angst about what's going on. It's always available to us. That particular guided meditation was by Tara Braucher. She does some great stuff with allowing. So the first quote on that handout is, "We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us." That was by Joseph Campbell. So we all have plans. Sometimes we wake up in the morning and go, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. I got this on my plan. This is and we don't want a total flail. So we tend to organize and have and set intentions for where it is that we're going to go in. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it is what it is. So, and allowing really has to do with allowing manifestation, allowing this, whatever it is comes into our life. And of course, we are always doing that. We're always manifesting. Maybe not always what we want, but we're always manifesting. According to Abraham Hicks, the steps to manifestation include ask, source answers, and then allow. Here in Unity, we teach God is, I am, I ask, I pray, and I act. And you can see how they relate to each other. There's a lot of similarity. Oh, thanks. You don't need that? I've got a notebook. Okay. So, and it, as a definition, art of allowing emphasizes aligning with your inner being, source to receive desired outcomes. It involves shifting focus from unwanted thoughts to those that feel better, thus raising your vibration and allowing that manifestation of the desires. The process requires trust in the unfolding and a willingness to relax and receive. The core idea is that when you ask for something, your inner being already has the answer and a path to it. However, resistance, often in the form of negative or limiting thoughts, blocks the reception in this guidance. To allow, one must have a quiet mind, stop arguing for limitations, and focus on the thoughts that feel good. Not ignoring reality, but trusting the vibrational nature of desires and enjoying the journey of their manifestation. So what usually keeps us from ever getting blocked from what we're manifesting? Why is it sometimes frustrating? Anybody have any sense?
Our focus on the absence of the manifestation of the thing that we desire.
Okay.
The fact that it's not here yet, or it doesn't look like we had originally thought it would come about.
Right. So impatience.
Mm-hmm.
Who can relate to that? So, and it is. It's also because that's our experience isn't in the present moment. All of it is. And so when we see and hear and feel that we're not where we desire to be, then there's a difference. There's this, okay, that vibration, you can feel that contrast of what is and what I desire. And the more contrast, there's a dissonance in our vibration, and it feels uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And on the last page of the handout is the set of emotions, the continuum of emotions going from joy, knowing, empowerment, freedom, love, and appreciation down to fear, grief, depression, despair, and powerlessness at the bottom. And the larger the contrast, the lower one goes down on the scale. So hatred, rage, jealousy, grief, depression, that's just a vibrational reflection of that contrast between what I desire and what is. So we don't want to hate the contrast. So what do we do? How do we make friends with contrast? Any suggestions? How do you deal with contrast when you're experiencing that? What just seems to work for anybody?
Realizing it as information of what we don't want and appreciating, again, that guidance of, oh, this doesn't feel good, so I can switch, I can shift to a better feeling thought as I wait for the manifestation, and just realizing it's information and I'm not doomed to feeling this way forever,
Mm-hmm. And I would say too, on that line, it's an invitation to transformation when we're experiencing that contrast, which we all do if we're breathing. You're just going to experience the contrast, and it's part of being in this three-dimensional reality that we chose to manifest in. So the art lies in recognizing the vibrational essence of what you want and taking delight in its unfolding, rather than demanding immediate, tangible results, which gets to what you were saying about that impatience. So some of the higher level vibrational states includes joy, imagination, gratitude, appreciation, compassion, courage, zeal, patience, and self-compassion. The art of allowing is the practice of letting go of control and releasing mental resistance. In science, this is known as the nervous system regulation. So we're choosing to let go of an obsession, essentially. Or an attachment. When you stop fighting your thoughts or pushing for forced outcomes, you reduce stress. And the feedback that we get is then it tells your body, yourself, you're safe, and it lets your natural creativity go ahead and work. So I was thinking about this on the drive down, is that hate is an attachment to contrast. So you identify it's like a flip side of a fanatic, a fan of a sports team. Go ahead.
Hang on.
It's kind of like, I was just thinking about you driving into town, getting behind that person that got their left turn signal on for 10 miles. You know, it's like, it just kind of builds in you, and you don't even know it's built in you. So if you can laugh at yourself, that's a good way to deal with it.
Oh yeah, so humor is a way of transforming tension into something that is then more positive and lets us see our humanness in the situation, and so that we don't take it so seriously. And that's one of the things I've always loved about Abraham is they're referring to death as croaking. I mean, to me, that's that. So when people transition, they croak, and it's like, hey, how can you feel serious about that transition, about and super sad about it, because they just croak, and it's okay, and that kind of levity and not taking things so seriously, I think allows us to allow something more positive and allow a transformation in our life. I know one of the attachments that we can get into, especially with some of the stuff that, so there's different layers of what we get exposed to. There's external information, media, that we get exposed to just because we carry these little things around, or if you watch TV. And so there's a relatively small number of players that are presenting the information. So that also means that most of the people that we know and we interact with are also exposed to this external media and this information that comes out, which is different from our internal dialogue. But our internal dialogue gets impacted by this external. And then there's the external that's from media, and then there's the external that's coming from other people, which included our parents, our friends, spouses, ex-spouses, all of the different people who had close personal relationships with. They didn't grow up exactly the same as we did. They don't have the same worldview necessarily that we do. And so that also gets into the formulation of the thoughts and vibrational experiences that we have. And back to the original definition, it's this of our, that allowing is getting on the wavelength of our inner being, our source of who we are deep down, when we're really at one with ourselves, or at one of the higher self. And you can, one of the things that I go through a lot is, okay, is that higher self impersonal, personal, and I go back and forth all the time with that, and I see examples of both. Yeah, it is both, and I believe that it is. And we find that typically when do we find that? That sense of who we truly
Comes with awareness. Comes with being present. and we're so unaware. Yesterday I was here and there were people setting up for a celebration flight. And I heard someone say, sorry about your loss. And I was like, that's old programming. And they probably wouldn't have understood another comment, but it's still perpetuating that thought that there's a loss and not that they're just on a journey and they haven't gone anywhere. They're still with us. But we are so programmed to perpetuate that old thinking. And when we start to become aware and to start to think about being impeccable with our words, it changes the way we look at things, and the world doesn't understand us when we do that. And so we tend to have some resistance toward being present. It's kind of a tightrope.
So the fact is, we are in this three-dimensional reality, and we're here for a reason. And the reason is that at least according to Abraham and some others, is that it creates that contrast so we can play around in this world. So I understand, I hear what you're saying, and at the same time, I wouldn't judge the loss thing, because that's an actual experience, and it's no better, worse, more elevated or not than any other experience.
I lost my uncle last month, and he was very close in my life, closer than my dad. And I've been riding the waves of grief and appreciation. And yesterday I had moments of grief, and to kind of rise out of it, I just kept reminding myself, like, it's okay that my humanness aches for him, and the divine in me is at peace, not hurting. And I'm also choosing to see that my grief is proof of the love that I have for him, and aching for the experiences I won't get to have with him, his face and those things, right? And I think that's okay. And the relief I feel afterwards of allowing that, acknowledging that he's so much happier. And if anything, his loss, not loss, but his passing, his crokenness, has brought me tremendous amounts of joy and closeness with the divine. I feel him even closer now than I did when he was in the physical realm. And so it's been a great blessing. And it's brought our family together and all of the things. But for those that have also lost people, that's okay to have those moments, because I do think it's just evidence of our humanness and the duality of both spirit and human. So.
Very cool. Yes, it is an opportunity for that transformation, for that growth. It's an invitation for that too. And within duality, what I like about dialectic is that it's not either or, it's and they're both true simultaneously, and that's and to me that's the best way for me to manage things like the personal, impersonal image of God, the dealing with the three-dimensional reality versus spiritual. They're both true. So,
I was just going to say, that's a great role model example of that was the art of allowing.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of going through my mom's last stages with that. And I had those kind of same things. But, John, we've done that incredible free class here and learned so much through that, but I'm losing my train of thought here, sorry, but it prevents us too from holding on to too much resistance in the future as well. And everybody grieves differently, but I've just learned in time from losing a really, really close family member a couple of years ago that, at least for me, it keeps me more open and more, I guess, cleaned out spiritually is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, sometimes we need so going back to the beginning of this, that we have to be willing to get rid of the life we planned as to have the life that's waiting for us. So the life we've planned partially came from our growing up years, the things that we learned from our culture and society and our family and then as we move forward, and we've got some pretty deep grooves about the way we describe what's occurring in the world. So we have some fairly deep grooves about how we look at the world, how we experience it. And if that's gonna transform, it takes more than one experience to have that transformation. It doesn't just happen just one time, like flipping the light switch and poof, now I'm realized. And even though we may have had an awakening of sorts, there's still much work to do in terms of laying down, reprogramming, if you will, that original plan to what is it that we down deep really want to do. So then I'm going to talk a little bit about the science that can be looked at in allowing. So the brain we talk about the brain shift, the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex to the pineal gland. And actually, the information that I found on this just was the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. But then I remembered Joe Dispenza's book on becoming that. Oh no, there's another stage here. So, of course, the amygdala is your brain's alarm system, fight or flight, stress, so on and so forth, and it keeps our brain waves at kind of high alert, and we get conditioned in that. So the other part of this, one is the brain, the other part is conditioning, specifically classical conditioning. So classical conditioning, if you remember Psychology 101, is learning by association. That's with Pavlov's dog. So he feeds the dog, he rings the bell. And then they measure the saliva of the dog. And every time that they feed him, they ring the bell, and then they feed him, and then they ring the bell and they don't feed him, but the saliva still arrives at the same rate that it did when they fed. So he's classically conditioned that the bell means it's time. So we're all subject to classical conditioning, or learning by association. That's why when I went through traumatic experiences, junior high, high school, in my life where my family just basically exploded, that I didn't want to stay there. I did not want to continue living there in that southwest suburban Chicago area place. So I went as far away as I could that I could afford, which was I wanted to go on to college, so I went to the state university that was farthest away from Chicago. So I went to Southern Illinois University, and that was it. I was like, and that was the amygdala speaking. Okay, it was going, get away from it. And so then the prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain used for calm, big picture thinking. And it's the part of the brain that is executive function, so it makes logical decisions for your person. And so you can choose to then take the next step of even becoming more realized if you can, to become more calm, to get more information, to get less of the negative stuff that maybe, or being aware of, okay, what's pre-programmed? What do I want? How do I become able to, more able to choose what my reality is? And so that involves the information that we learn from the pre-programming, but it also means we're open to new information, current information, what's going on in the now. Next is the part of the brain, the pineal gland, which, I'm not going to say it's super hard science, but there is some information that when the pineal gland gets innervated, that it slows down the brain, even to the point then it gets into like the REM sleep, where then it becomes reactivated again, but on a different level than our typical consciousness that we experience. And it's felt that that is a place where allowing can occur, and where we can generate creativity and allowing. So, and might be more able to seek a vibrational match with our inner being. So there's this new research I just ran along just in the last week. University of Bristol. They found out that when you exercise, cardiovascular exercise, it changes the nervous system of the heart. Like 6 times the amount on one side, it changes the balance of the innervation in the heart. Now, of course, they were interested, the University of Bristol was interested in, and there was some evidence that it would be helpful in treating heart disease. Of course, my mind went to heart math and other ways of looking at it, at the whole sense that there's an entire nervous system within the heart, which helps to direct us in our life. So I thought it would be remiss not to include, not that everybody can, but if one's able to, the ability to get up and move, and to the best that we can, really can have a big impact on being able to be calm. Like one of the things that we know is that people who are athletes, their heart rate, their resting heart rate is lower. And even non-athletes, if you just create a habit for yourself to work out and get your heart rate up high due to exercise, not due to anxiety, it reduces your anxiety. Right? And we all know that from experience. And so I think it's important that we include that into the science, because I think that one of the things that I notice is when I'm in my routine of exercise, and I've been sticking to that, I can slip into states of meditation much more quickly. It's just easier. It's just easier. You just focus on the breath, and boom, I can feel my heart rate drop. I used to measure my heart rate while I was doing. I had biofeedback equipment back in the '80s in my practice, and so I used it with clients, but I practiced a lot with myself to do biofeedback, and the amount of control you can have is just incredible, and it's very helpful. And now there's more science saying, okay, well, there's actually going to change the anatomical structure within your nervous system by being involved in this exercise. Byron Katie said, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time. So,
what is reality?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, you're the one who mentioned it.
Reality is whatever we choose to describe what our reaction to our environment is, both our internal and external environment. And so it's our experience.
But what is reality?
Our experience.
What is our experience?
Mine, I'm not going to tell you what yours is, but I'll tell you what mine is. Mine is a combination of thoughts, emotions, senses from my physical sensory system, which includes emotion, my memory, thoughts, my response to my thoughts.
Would it be whatever it is that takes us there, whatever there is?
It's always there, because we're always in the current moment. So there is always a reality, but that is not necessarily.
So what is there is already there.
It is now. But now
Has it always been there?
And now it is. And now it is.
Has it always been there?
Has your? No. Not. No, because now it is.
Well, where is reality going?
Right here.
But if it's here, where does it go from here?
Where it goes.
So how does that fit your mode of operation to reach that state of what you're calling a meditation of sense of self that identifies with whatever that reality is?
Well, that's not exactly what I said, but
okay.
whether reality is our experience. My reality is my experience.
I believe there are infinite numbers of realities, and every day we get to choose which reality we want to manifest. And every time we focus on the reality in front of us, and if we're unhappy with it or resistant to it, then we keep manifesting more of the same. But if I'm focusing on the reality that I want that maybe isn't here yet, and I accept my current reality of the present moment, and I focus on the better feeling thoughts of what it would feel like to have that, whatever that is, then that's the quickest way of getting to that different reality. If I'm unhappy with my current reality, the process is accepting it so that I can allow a different one to manifest. I don't know if that's what he's asking,
But if you accept your current reality, how do you change that?
Well, accepting doesn't mean you put it in concrete. Accepting just means I acknowledge this moment. And like you were saying, there are an infinite number of possibilities. And in fact, one could argue that what you desire already exists in this current moment. But we might not yet be a vibrational match. So we're not yet experiencing it. But it's already here.
I just wanted to throw in one thing. When I was going through some seminars given by Dr. Michael Rice, he differentiated between the term reality and the term actuality. And that brings me back to the first class that I ever had at the university, very first day, when the professor brought in a woman to argue with him in front of the class, and it became a shouting match, and she stormed out of the room, and then this was all staged. And then the professor had us write what happened. Okay, and so we had to read out loud what she was wearing, what, how he was acting, everything. And you got variations from her wearing a yellow polka dotted dress to blue jeans. Now, everybody had a reality there. But the actuality, one thing happened. That was the actuality. All these other things were reality. I don't know if that helps or not.
So who determines actuality?
Nobody.
The events that occur.
So back to when you argue with reality. Thank you. You lose. Well, the thing is that if you're arguing with reality, then what you're saying is, I don't like where I'm at. I don't like I don't like me, I don't like where I'm at, I don't like what I'm experiencing, I don't like how everybody else is behaving around me. I don't, that if we're arguing with reality, then that's the thing, we're at a negative stance with what we're experiencing.
Okay. Let's say you're 74 years old and the reality is your computer skills are lacking because of your inability to do certain things that naturally you feel you should be able to do. But that's the reality you're in. Now your brain over 50 years has determined that these are the things you're good that you can do well, and these are things that you really aren't prepared to do, because the reality is you haven't prepared yourself over time to do this. Your brain isn't accentuated to the point of the reality that you have created that you live in now. Now, the reality is that that's the world you live in. Now, that's kind of change, certainly. But is it possible to change? Well, probably not likely. So it could be, it's possible, but brain synapses close over time, and when you reach a certain age, computer skills are somewhat can appear to be somewhat lacking, and not that you don't have certain talents that are front and center that you can't do, but one of them may not be those little minute, it should be easy to do skills that seem present. That's the reality.
Okay, that's your reality.
That's
subjective.
Yeah, very good.
That's your, okay. And, okay, so a way of dealing with this argument that we have with reality is the practice of radical acceptance. So And I guess I'll still bounce off a little bit about what you were saying. That I can relate a lot of the frustration you were just discussing, and yet neuroplasticity exists, and neurogenesis continues on into older age for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it truly does, and there's a lot of science behind that. That we continue to grow new brain cells and new nervous cells. In fact, every 7 years, all of our cells are totally brand new. None of our cells are actually older than 7 years because we're always replacing everything. And it is easier to learn new things when we're younger. There's no just arguing that, but on some level, I don't know. I mean, there's I've read books by people after they have strokes, after they have brain injuries, and I'm amazed at the insights and the growth that comes from that. So we know that this neurogenesis is reoccurring. Now the question is sometimes though is, do I want to continue to ride the technological wave? Do I want to create a reality where I don't even reach for AI? Because it's not, I just choose to not to have to work and be a part of a creation that's not a part of this multiplex of centers. And so, there's lots of choices there. And there isn't any right choice or wrong choice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is AI?
Artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay.
So if our body develops if our body develops new cells every 7 years, then how come if we have a scar or from a previous injury, how come it don't disappear then?
Well, that's even the scar tissue is new.
It's even new too? Like this scar on my arm, it renews itself?
Yeah, it rubs down and it continues to grow. It still has some of the genetic material that says it still needs to be protected. It's whatever that injury was.
Now my daughter has epilepsy.
Yeah.
She started having seizures when she's 5, and she'd have 40 or 50 a day.
Mm-hmm.
She had brain surgery when she was about 9 or 10. She wrote a book that she just had published when she was about 12 or 13 years old. And immediately after that, she wrote another 3 books that are still in manuscript form. I'm not sure I believe or agree with some sense that every cell in your body regenerates every 7 years, because I don't agree with that. Now, scientifically, what you're saying may be true, but following my daughter's history, she's now in her early 30s, still having seizures. Challenge now is the medication. Medication is the key here, because she'll take 12, 15 pills a day, so she won't have seizures, but it's all affecting her mind and her ability to think on her own.
So here's the thing, though. Because everything could change doesn't mean it always will in the direction that one desires.
Well, I'm just simply saying that I don't
That's fine.
agree with that.
That's fine.
Based on experience.
All right. So radical acceptance, some ways to do that: recognize that the reality cannot be changed in the moment. So in this moment, it's not changing. Honor and validate your emotional response to that. And then accept as a conscious choice reality with the whole self. Stop fighting what is. Like a bullfighter. The bullfighter doesn't try to put his head down against the bull. Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty. But they move and parlay, and then they're in a different position. So it's, go ahead.
So my understanding is that cells reproduce the same design that they're in.
Yes.
And so your scar tissue is reproducing scar tissue, which is why a scar stays, is because it's reproducing this, it's just reproducing what's there. And so everything changes, it's new, but it's still reproducing the same situation that you have. And as far as can't be changed in the moment, when you look at miracles, they are suddenlies. They happen instantly. And they're constantly used the word suddenly this happened. Jesus did not see that something couldn't be changed instantly. And so it was. And I've seen, when I was in the charismatic movement, I've seen that happen a lot. But if we don't believe it can, then it isn't going to happen.
Right. And also, it's important that we see it as it is in order to imagine the change, the transformation. The transformation, so it's important to see it as it is in order for it to transform. If that makes any sense. It doesn't mean that you see it as it is and thus it's going to continue to be that way. But you see it as it is, and in a level of calmness rather than a level of angst, in order to open yourself up to, hey, this can be different. This can be a miracle.
Jesus see it as it was or as it really was?
Maybe both.
I think really the gist of allowing and the way that this process unfolds and the reason that Jesus was able to do things almost instantaneously is because he moved from within the middle of the vortex. He was not being thrust around within it. And so that acceptance moves you from a place where you can actually hold energy and affect change, and those frequencies can be batched and moved. And so instantaneous, sure, but only when you've moved to that position or you haven't left in the first place. So like unconsciously outside of our perception of reality or our opinion or interpretation of reality, like in physicality, there are different steps than in our conscious mind.
And I'd segue that to what's love got to do? Because I think that that's a part of, rather than Jesus necessarily seeing the way it truly is, which I'm not arguing that point, but I think it's how he saw it, which was through love, and a unconditional love. And unconditional love allows us to be in that pure acceptance, that radical acceptance, without, you know, it just is. And to see, you know, and that is maybe another way of saying that, is that I'm seeing that person as their true self through this love. And I'm a little short, so I want to go real quick. And that is this Melissa Gilbert, not the one from the TV show, but the one who wrote the wrote the Eat, Pray, Love book. She encourages a practice of imagining unconditional love. What your idea of it is, if you don't believe in it, or if you don't, an unconditional love spirit, and write letters to that, and then write a letter of what unconditional love would say to you. And that, and what she found was that, you know, she was doing it for several years, and then she did a podcast and started sharing this with other people and encouraging other people to do it. And they found that there was just so much that was similar about it, and that they felt for the first time, they felt, okay, you know, and I have a personal experience of when I just felt beloved, really for the first time, and it just changed how I responded there. It just like I did. And, you know, it's joy. I don't know how to really. It's ineffable. You know, I can't really put it into words anymore. I can really put reality into words. And it's a game changer. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know really how to ask my question, but it's definitely a question. So I've been, you know, in this journey for a while, and I've seen transformations within myself. But that erases all of it. Never mind that. And thank you. My nervous system still reacts to the point to where in the night I don't even know why, but I do know why, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's painful, and I'm tired of it, and I feel like I'm in allowing, but when I get to this place in the pain, in the heart, and you know all of that's happening, it's like I'm still allowing. So why am I still here? You know, that's how I feel right today. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, why am I still here? Not like physically. But
No,
why
I know
am
what you're saying. You're saying, why am I in this rut of
Yes.
it reoccurring?
Yes.
again?
Especially in nerves.
Okay, so, and as I was referring to before, we created a rut over our entire lifetime. So creating a new rut in our more desired place to be takes effort. It really does. It takes effort, and it doesn't happen accidentally. It's something that we have to do on purpose, where we're using, and that's that last page on the handout, is the sense of emotions. And as you go up towards the higher emotions in terms of joy, love, acceptance, all those kinds of things, that we want to shoot and try to learn what actions, behaviors, thoughts, ways of being are associated with those higher levels, because you're not likely, although miracles do happen, but we have more success more frequently when we move up one or two steps on that emotional scale. And so the tracking of where you are emotionally, and just trying to go to the next one. Don't necessarily shoot for even though that's where we want to be. We want to be in joy. We all want to be in joy and acceptance and love. But sometimes we need to, when we're in a rut, we have to do some grinding. We have to go ahead and take steps.
I just want to say, like, I know appreciation's at that first level, but regardless of where you're at in life, I think it's very important to practice an appreciation, whether that's through meditation or just any daily practice. Appreciate where you're at, because without those highs or without those lows, we won't have those highs. You can't have those without that, vice versa. So just having that, you know, regardless of where you're at, depression, miserable, you know, just appreciate where you're at, because you know it's going to change. It's only a season. It's only a reality right now.
You're saying appreciate the bullshit.
Precisely.
There you go.
Because without that, you're not going to have the blissful days.
When you create a reality that you love, or you think you love, so that you enjoy doing as much as possible.
Right.
And that's who you are. That's who you are. That's who you want to be.
And the thing is, we weren't made just to instantly be in spirit. The reason why we're incarnated in the three-dimensional is to do three-dimensional stuff. And that means that's what's pushing into the contrast, into feeling, into that possibility of getting into a rut that we don't like. We wouldn't, the only reason we can do that is because we're in this three-dimensional reality. And you're not doing it wrong, I want to say. You're just doing the work. And the fact that you're aware of it, that's work too. And you're doing it right. So the announcements. Everyone is invited this evening, as every Sunday at 6 p.m. for meditation here at the church. You don't have to do anything but sit and be. For 30 minutes with other souls and spirits in the same space. Unity Spiritual Center has invited everyone to join them for a movie night this Wednesday, July 22nd at 6:30 p.m. They will be showing What the Bleep Do We Know? Popcorn and drinks will be provided. So that's the other Unity church on the west side, for those who want to know. Next Sunday, we will welcome Marlene Bricker back to our platform as our guest speaker. Marlene is a long-time speaker and spiritual teacher with a deep knowledge of many spiritual traditions and practices. And that comes through. She's got a good sense of humor as well. Next Sunday, join us for 9:15 for a new thought and adult education class, From Ego and Separation to the Kingdom of Heaven by Mark Mullen. Look forward to hearing him. Our next community through music outdoor concert has been moved from Saturday to Friday for this month only. So this Friday, the 24th, welcome Joel and Michelle Van Hoos, Iced X Coffee and Robot to Fancy, Animal Lauren Slater to the outdoor stage. Bring friends and lawn chairs and welcome this great local town. It's luau time, and don't miss that fundraiser. Tickets are $25 per person, delicious meal, 2 drinks, live music, and lots of fun. Sign up at the connection table in the foyer. In August, we'll start collecting items for our next yard sale. Okay. Wow. And that will be September 11th and 12th. Start gathering and bringing us whatever is no longer certain. And tickets are now on sale for Daniel Nahmod concert, September 4th, 7 p.m. Tickets are $20. You can sign up at the connection table or on.
Also, start saving your bags, especially the colored ones for us, if you haven't started, because we start leaving